Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Pierre LeBrun coming up from Boston in a few moments. Possibly the future home of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., possibly the Boston Red Sox, maybe the New York Yankees, because Vladdy, as we know, liked a post of some super fan in Boston about, this was before Soto had signed.
Devers and Soto.
Him and Devers and Soto at Fenway, the big three, and there's Vladdy Jr. liking it. And now, on top of a comment from our boy, Steve Phillips, because Phillips is now, I guess, saying he thinks he's going to end up in New York with the Yankees. And there was a Photoshop of Vladdy in a Yankee uniform, and there's old at Vladdy Jr. 27 liking the picture.
I would be just furious if I was the Jays. And people talk about, the old school and the way things are now. I respect the fact that if this happened back in the day, somebody would have came out to me and said, don't even think about one more like or on Instagram. Yeah. It's so disrespectful. Like, you're a Jay for now. Obviously, the contract didn't work out. But you want to talk about being a distraction. And you said you didn't want to negotiate during the season because it would be too big of a distraction. What about this nonsense as a distraction? So
right.
Please, get it straight.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To me, it's such a childish move.
It is.
And I get it. It's Instagram, and the argument will be, well, he's, it's young. But that's why, you want to know why Mark Shapar, I believe, hasn't been a full believer in him? Because he thinks he's childish. And he thinks he's not professional enough. And it's, sure, it may be a negotiation. It's a business. I get it. Is it innocent? Maybe his argument will be someone else is controlling my account. I don't know. It's a very modern story. I get it. But it's so unnecessary and stupid. And it's also, it's the two teams we're talking about. It wouldn't be right if it was any team. But if it's Arizona or the Giants, you're like, all right, this is the Red Sox and the Yankees. You say you love Toronto, you love the Blue Jays, you've been here for 10 years. You know we hate those two teams more than anyone else.
This is the situation.
It's so goofy.
Jamie, I'm pretty sure we sat in the same spot in the back of the bus. This is where the old school guys would sit back there and have a beer and be like, did you see what that ass clown liked today?
Yeah.
Like, that's what guys would say. Like, he's really going to continue this all season? That's what guys would say.
And the other thing, too, is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this guy is getting, how much is he making this year?
It's $29 million or something.
So,
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's 28.5, I think it is. So let's call it 29. Like, you're getting paid $29 million by the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yep.
You can't be saying, hey, I want to be on this. Like, it is childish, but it's non-professional. Like, he's not going to throw away the check this year and go, sorry, I wish I'm going to be there. Like, you have to be all in on the Toronto Blue Jays until you're not. And that's where I have a problem with it, too. Like, it is a giant distraction. Oh, you make a great point. Like, you don't want a distraction to the contract, but yet you're actually drawing attention to yourself by liking a post like that where you're in another uniform. They're paying him $29 million this year to play for the Blue Jays. Play for the Blue Jays and either get something sorted out or move on with your life. But in between, don't be that distraction.
Right.
You're actually drawing attention to yourself. I don't like that.
Don't light a fire on the way out.
I think he took one thing from Juan Soto's comments. The day they got eliminated or lost the World Series to the Dodgers, Juan Soto said, yes, I could play with the Yankees, but there's going to be 29 other teams competing for. He said that.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as they got eliminated from the World Series. And I think Vladdy has just grabbed that comment and that notion and that idea, and he's running with it because I think he's fascinated with other 29 teams competing for his services. Obviously, it's going to be no more than 10. But
that's exactly it. Like, he's not going to the Pirates.
Right. It's just a term. You toss it out there. The whole league can have me if you want. But you're really talking probably about 4 or 5 teams, if that.
Yeah, if we're talking the big money.
Yes.
And listen.
But I think he just loves that idea. He heard that comment, and he's like, I got to come with the same thing if I don't get this thing done.
I agree. I think he looked at it and said, listen, the Jays, they got to own it. They didn't try to get out in front of this. They weren't proactive in years past and tried to sign him last year or the year before that. And now he's a year away from free agency, and he's entitled to do whatever he wants. Every pro athlete is entitled to that. But how you act getting there is I think, imperative, especially with a fan base that has supported you greatly and that is generally on his side, wants to see him get paid and play and stay with Toronto. But, this isn't going to help your cause. Like, it's the Yank. I get it. It's Instagram. It's so ridiculous to even consider this. as a storyline, but it's true in the modern world. This is something that's going to trend. People see it, people get it, and they know where he's going with it. Yeah. Yankees, Red Sox, yeah, that would be interesting, and it's throwing it back in the face of Blue Jay fans, especially when you consider the teams we're talking about. And it's silly and it's unnecessary. And, again, I don't want to hear afterwards, I love Toronto, all I want is Toronto. Well, then stop this stuff. It's not, you haven't even played a game yet, and it's a circus already. And he's not alone. He's not guilty of that himself. There's two parties involved here, but it just adds to the weird mojo around this team and what it's going to be like in that clubhouse. And
such a distraction.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, we've got a big one tonight down in Boston. Jerome McGinley in about an hour, but Pierre LeBrun's been down there, I guess, since Saturday night, since Sunday, I guess. And he joins us now courtesy of the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's happening, Pierre?
Well, I'm staring at TD Garden from my hotel room. I sent you guys a picture of my view from my hotel room.
I love it.
If it's not like a beach or something cool, bud, you can't send that back. Dude, it's a highway.
It's a great hotel, though.
I don't care. We don't know that. We don't get a sense of that. We don't want to see a traffic jam in the pit.
It is. By the way, you mentioned Jerome McGinley. I still remember being at the Salt Lake City Olympics, and I could hear a young Jerome McGinley celebrating after Joe Sakic. I think it was Joe Sakic cemented the win for Canada of the U.S. in the gold medal game. Mm-hmm. The media at the Olympics sits closer to the ice. We were third or fifth row center ice covering that event. And you could hear the celebration from ice level, cementing that win. One of my favorite memories of covering best on best, that's for sure. And we got another one playing out tonight, for sure.
Well, with that in mind, obviously, either team could win. It should be a great game. What kind of celebration would you be expecting? Would you think it'll mirror what you saw in 2002 and 2010? Gloves in the air, helmets in the air, crying on the ice? What are we expecting?
I think it's going to be a pretty big deal, especially if it's Team USA. I'm not saying that Team Canada doesn't want it as badly. Believe me, the look on the faces of everyone from Crosby, McDavid on down the last two practices here in Boston, oh my goodness, it's all business for Team Canada. It means as much for each, but it's clear, even just in the reaction from Matthew Tkachuk and a number of American players last Saturday at the Bell Center. Matthew Tkachuk called last Saturday the biggest moment in his career next to winning the Cup in Game 7. There is a lot riding for this generation of Team USA. They want to take ownership of the sport. They believe they're opening a window of winning best on best and being the kings in the hill in hockey. I mean, that's what they want. And a lot of it is a tip of the hat to the development program in Plymouth, Michigan, and everyone that's coming out of that program now. So there's a lot riding, for USA Hockey. I think for Canada, there's just this quiet confidence going into tonight that I think a lot of people around the program are like, remember 2010, the U.S. beat Canada in the round robin, but Canada won when it mattered. So it's the vibes are unbelievable to be around both these teams. You could paint a picture and figure out a script on why each team might win. I mean, I think Connor Hellebuyck's the best goalie in the world right now, and you don't have to go too deep as to understand why he might be the difference here tonight for Team USA. At the same time, there's 14 Stanley Cup winners in Team Canada's dressing room to only 2 for Team USA. And I asked John Cooper about that this morning. And I said, is that a thing? Like, you guys feel that in your room? He goes, there's no question we feel it in the last 48 hours, Cooper said. Guys who have been there,
I love it,
who know how to win on the big stage, they're ready for games like tonight.
So, in your opinion, who is your X factor, really, for both teams? Like, who do you get a sense of could be difference makers for Canada and then, over to the U.S. side?
Well, the captain obvious is that Connor McDavid has opened the scoring for Canada in 2 straight games, and he just has that steely-eyed look right now. But if you want a less obvious player, watch out for Sam Reinhart. I still think that because he plays in Florida, even though they won the Cup, the details in his game are so insane. I just have a feeling he's going to have a moment tonight if Canada wins. For the U.S., the player that, he's already having a Norris Trophy type season, but this has been a bit of a further coming out party as far as the rest of the world understanding where his game is at. Zach Werenski has been all world in this event for Team USA. They miss Quinn Hughes for sure, but I'm telling you, Zach Werenski has filled his boots. Like, he is playing like a guy that may not just be in the conversation for the Norris this year, but honestly, guys, and I didn't think I'd say this before the season started, I think Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes are a conversation for best defenseman in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I hear you.
Pierre, where do you think Coop kind of falls in this pregame? I know that he's got a vibe about him, and I think he loves these moments, and I think he loves the idea. He told everybody the other day that he's had this speech in the chamber for a couple years now, and he's looking forward to bringing it to the boys. Like, he's probably got something special to give the fellas to get them fired up. Not that any of them need it.
Yeah, you're so bang on that. Oh, I mean, this morning, both Shoggy and I noticed this, but when they were doing the stretch at center ice, they don't have a player go in the middle like you do for NHL skates for whatever reason. And Coop went in the middle after the stretch was almost over and tapped his stick. All right, we ready? That was it. Everyone nodded their head. There's just he's the perfect guy for this group.
Oh, he's awesome, man. I love him. He loves it, and I love him.
Yeah, he just the way he treats the modern player and his social demeanor. You can just tell the players reacting to him. I wrote a story the last couple of days in The Athletic, guys. In 2017, John Cooper decided his international path. I mean, he's a dual citizen, right? He's born and raised in Prince George, but his mom was from San Francisco, and he actually coached for USA Hockey at the 2008 Ivan Holinka as an assistant coach. But in 2017, Tampa missed the playoffs, which is rare, and he was sitting by his phone, and Hockey Canada phoned him 10 minutes before USA Hockey did about the World. And he went with he obviously he's a proud Canadian, and he was hoping it'd be Hockey Canada. But my point is, 10 minutes apart, and who knows what path could have been different.
Yeah.
What side he's coaching on. So, and again, I don't want to misconstrue this. I mean, he's beyond proud to be coaching Team Canada. That would have been his first choice for sure, given where he was born. But there was certainly a world in which if Hockey Canada had never called, and Brian Burke talked to me about this because Berkey was trying to get USA Hockey to land him. If the reverse is true, 10 minutes apart in 2017, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows who's coaching Canada tonight? It's kind of a crazy thing to think about.
With Pierre LeBrun. So John Cooper is putting Seth Jarvis in tonight, taking Travis Konechny out. Mm-hmm. There are rumors that someone is really perpetuating on this show that Chris Kreider's going in and Kyle Connor's coming out for the Americans. Have you heard those, and what is your read on it?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering the same thing. Mike Sullivan would not confirm his lineup, neither yesterday nor this morning. He just said everyone's available, other than Charlie McAvoy, of course, who's been ruled out. Yesterday in practice, Kyle Connor was skating sort of as a placeholder where Brady Tkachuk skates, because Brady Tkachuk took the practice off yesterday. He was ill. So he was skating on one of the top two lines in practice, but he was also skating on one of the power play units. So you could easily see a world in which, was he just a placeholder as the extra forward, or why is he skating on the power play? So I think Team USA try to be coy, but it has led a lot of us watching practice wondering if it's Kreider or Connor at the very least. That's a legitimate question. We'll find out soon enough here.
Pierre, do you think it would be easier, or there's more mystery involved for insiders like yourself? Or would you rather they just come out with, like, this guy's got this? Because there's a lot of this stuff where it's like illness, where you can tell the guy's not ill or he's not hurt. Mm-hmm. Like, would you rather just the straight truth? Does it make your job easier, or is there more mystery involved with this and more reporting to do when they do it like this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, that's what I do. So I guess I don't want to take my job away from myself. So I don't mind, the whole 24 hours that CG and I and Greg spent on finding out whether or not Quinn Hughes was coming from Vancouver. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. So that's fine. And listen, I guess what I would say is I'm still surprised in 2025 that coaches and coaching staffs believe it's that big a deal to be coy about who's in your lineup. Like, it will not affect anything either team is doing depending on one or two players. So, come on. I mean, that's the part where I just, coaches still won't name their goalies. Come on, guys. Like, the game is so modernized beyond that. But that I don't care. But I'll tell you this: we should touch on this for sure before I go. One of the major trade-offs lineup-wise, I don't think it's getting talked about enough, maybe because it's obvious, but Cale Makar, who didn't play against the U.S. last Saturday, Charlie McAvoy out. That is some kind of
huge.
Like, McAvoy changed the game. Forget the 3 fights in 9 seconds. Of course, that was entertaining, but McAvoy's hit on McDavid changed the game. Everyone within that Team USA group told me that, and I feel the same way. That was huge, that hit on McDavid. He's out, and as deep as their blue line is, and it really is, I mean, they got a lot of talent there, they don't really have a player with his particular toolbox to replace him. Jake Sanderson comes in, and he's a great two-way player, great puck mover, skater. He's not Charlie McAvoy. So that's big for them. Of course, just having Makar back. I mean, they worked on the power play a lot this morning, by the way, for morning skate. And having Makar back on that unit with Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Reinhart, hello. I mean, that's a difference maker.
Well, to follow up on the Quinn Hughes thing, can you confirm, like, did Quinn want to fly and Vancouver said no? Like, how did this play out? Because I've seen different things, and like you said, there was all this confusion. Like, Mike Sullivan just goes, yeah, Quinn Hughes is on his way.
Flying in.
Yeah, flying in, which is a crazy comment, reckless in retrospect.
Yeah.
But, like, was it Vancouver that said no? Was it Quinn? What happened here?
Yeah. So Brian, great question, and I think there was confusion. One thing I'll say just globally before I answer that question, if there's anything the NHL and the NHLPA have to glean from this event, which has turned into an unbelievable success, but they need to clean up the roster rules and everything else for the World Cup in 28 when they host this, a deeper event here. First of all, they need to go to 25-man rosters away from 23 for obvious reasons, and the league has acknowledged that behind the scenes here. But to your question, I mean, I spoke with Quinn Hughes' agent, Pat Brisson, yesterday, who walked me through the whole process. And what's clear is that this isn't just about one person making a decision. There was a lot of interaction between the agent, the player, the Canucks, Team USA. There was a lot of group conversations happening here to get to a final decision. And what Pat Brisson said is, the bottom line is he wasn't cleared to come back and play. So that would put some onus on the Canucks. But at the same time, as Pat said, if he's flying to Boston, he's likely not even playing. I mean, the U.S. has 6 healthy defensemen, and Bill Daly doubled down yesterday and said Quinn Hughes can't play if they still have those 6 healthy D. Those are the rules. So I think it came down to Quinn Hughes hasn't played in 25 days. He just shed the non-contact, I think, yesterday. If he's coming to Boston, he's probably in the press box. Everyone just kept circling the wagon. Then the other thing I should say, Pat Brisson said, it was an unbelievably hard decision for Quinn Hughes. I mean, he wanted to be part of this so badly. And the poor kid now has been through this twice. He had to excruciatingly withdraw before the event, which was hard enough, and then he went through this. So I certainly feel for the Canucks captain. But it wasn't one person make a call, I guess is what I'm saying. There were a lot of different people involved that helped get to this decision.
So outside, I mean, tonight it's over. Saturday the league starts back up. How nervous, nervous might be the wrong word, but how frustrated or concerned are a lot of general managers where all of a sudden back to their club team and in limps some of their star players are not available to their team down the stretch?
Yeah, no question, Noodles. I mean, that's for sure an undercurrent. And you say general managers, I'd say owners. Definitely some griping already that I'm hearing. But we'll see when the smoke clears who comes out of this meeting a game or two. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk is definitely not 100% going into tonight. Does he play the next game for Florida? Sidney Crosby is playing with one arm. It's unbelievable what Canada's captain is doing for his country. But he's not 100%. Let's get real. Does he play or not next week? Maybe. I don't know. Austin Matthews suffered a different injury this past week. He told us yesterday. It wasn't the same one as earlier this year. I don't think he's 100% going into tonight. He feels better, he said. But, so list goes on. Cale Makar is not 100%. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And that's where I think, as much as the NHL and the HLPA are 100% committed to having a February World Cup in 2028 in between the two Olympics, there are some who would rather see it in September, like the old Canada Cups and the World Cup in 2016.
Absolutely, man.
So, and it's the players, by the way. It's the players that don't want a September World Cup. They feel it extends their season. But on top of all that, you may have seen some of Gord Miller's postings. I mean, the IIHF is also not in line right now with the February World Cup. And if the IIHF is not in line, what does that mean? So still some things to debate as we move forward out of this. But no matter how you look at it, and obviously a very politically charged few days here, and obviously Trump addressing Team USA this morning and players being asked about that, this event will have taken on, I think, way more meaning than I think if everyone was honest when they announced this last year in Toronto, the All-Star game. I don't think anyone could have imagined that the Four Nations would get this much attention. I'm telling you, here in the States, mainstream news, non-sports, talking about this game tonight. Like, hockey is front and center.
Yeah, it's big, man. And we were wondering how many Canadians would be in the building tonight. And I wonder.
Well, there's lots in my hotel.
That's what I guess. That's what we're asking. Like, through the streets of Boston, how many Canadians are cruising around?
Seeing lots of Maple Leaf Team Canada jerseys for sure. And Seth Jarvis said that his buddies had their flights canceled from Winnipeg, so they drove 30 hours to come to the game tonight from Manitoba and to get to TD Garden. And John Cooper was told that, and he could see the look on his face. He was just beaming with national pride. So I tell you, it's when you have these best on best events, they don't always hit it. Honestly, no one remembers the 04 World Cup that walked us into that lockout. It's one of the least remembered best on best events. 2016, outside of Team North America and the kids, almost no one remembers Canada being Europe in that final. That's no one's fault. I'm just saying.
Yep.
Sometimes you get an 87 Canada Cup and a 96 World Cup. Sometimes you get a nothing, and this one is a something.
Yeah, and it's because of the two teams involved, clearly. I mean, obviously that goes without saying. If it's not Canada USA, then the hype just simply isn't there. Even in the States.
Yeah.
If the States are playing Sweden tonight, it's not the same. It's the fact that Canada's involved.
And the last thing I would say, one of the reasons this is Four Nations and not a World Cup, I mean, officially they'll tell you, the League of the PAO, it's because they didn't have time to organize a full-fledged World Cup. But let's be real. They can't have Russia involved. So they make it Four Nations for now to buy themselves time. And I get it. I do the same thing. Buy themselves time to see what the IOC ends up doing with Italy and sort of go from there. Well, one of the reasons Russia's not here is, of course, is to eliminate the politics from the event. Well, guess what we have?
Yeah, exactly.
The entire time is politics involved in the event. So it's kind of fascinating from that perspective.
And that's the thing, man. It's unpredictable, like, what's going to happen in the future. Like, with Russia, when they get back in, no one has that answer right now. But and no one really wants to touch it. But, I wouldn't be shocked if Trump tweeted out, "Get Russia back in." And then it's like, what's Bettman going to do? How do you respond to that? Yeah. He might do it. He might tweet something out like that. He might say something like that. And then I'd like to see the reaction from Bill Guerin and others. But, right now it is what it is. And
maybe that's the history of this event in some ways. I mean, the Cold War backdrop of the 81, 84, and 87 Canada Cups can't be forgotten in those clashes between the Soviets and Canada. That was mixed in. That was part of it. And now it's, U.S.-Canada political tension. It is absolutely part of the story.
Yep, it's a huge, huge part. All right, Pierre. Well, enjoy yourself tonight, man. When you're walking over to that building, it looks great in the photo, but when you getting over there?
Right now, live hit with Shoggy and Chris Johnson inside TD Garden at 6:05 for Sports Center. So, I'll do my usual sprint. Like I did.
Okay. Get a sweat on before you get in there and get on TV. Enjoy yourself. It'll be a fun one tonight. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys.
There's Pierre LeBrun joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Speaking of Trump, Tiger's at the White House right now. Tiger Woods.
Black History Month.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, but I also think there was some golf stuff going on. Like, obviously,
probably.
that factored in.
You imagine if they had a simulator in the back?
Well, I don't know if they were. That wouldn't surprise me. Like, if Tiger's like, all right, bring your clubs. If Trump said, bring your clubs. But I guess Jay Monahan, the commissioner, was there. It sounds like maybe Yasser from PIF could have been there too, and Adam Scott. And now there's some reporting going on out there. I think Rex Hoggard of the Golf Channel reporting you could see live players playing at the Players Championship, which is in a month.
Wow.
Like, that's how quickly this is moving, like the amalgamation of the golf world again.
Yeah, but there's a live event. That's going to be dicey.
I don't know how
there's a live
that's gonna
event,
work.
and if like Greg Norman, I don't even think Greg
Norman's out. Like, he's involved in some way, but he's not like
But
the
they're
commissioner.
going to freak out if they're like, oh, so we paid all you guys this money to play in these events, and all of a sudden there's a Players
Yeah.
where the number one prize money is $5 million, and that's the fourth guy in the team makes that for a live win.
I know.
It's asinine.
I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how it's going to look, but it does sound like it's moving faster.
Yeah.
And someone's going to have to concede. Like, both sides are going to concede something. And here's another thing I'll predict. If Trump is this heavily involved, a tournament's going to his course. I guarantee you that. The PGA is
business.
100%. He'll be
I
like,
just loved how
I'll broker
much-
this, but we're going back to Trump Doral.
I loved how disrespectful the Canadians were booing the anthem in Montreal or whatever, and this guy continuously, daily.
They're just trolling about this 51st
Yeah, he calls
state.
Prime Minister of the country the governor of the 51st state.
It's
like,
just
so what?
so
That's
childish and trolling.
Yeah,
and stupid.
that's beyond disrespectful, but
Yeah.
we're a bunch of lunatics up here for booing the anthem.
The sad part about it is it has crossed over into, we always used sports as an escape, and now it's not, right? Like, now it's square involved in politics where it shouldn't be, but at the end of the day, it sucks on both sides, and I feel bad. I just want to watch the game, not have to weigh in on everything. But, that Doral, is it a good course? I feel like I've been there once.
it's pretty well revered, like in Miami.
Have you played it? Oh,
I have, yeah. It's a great golf course, man. It's a great course because you remember all the memories from Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
That's all my memory bank for playing good courses. I'm like, I remember Tiger being there and Phil being there.
Yeah.
I mean, Doral, I played it one time. It was spectacular.
Yeah,
you guys know me and golf, but I stayed at Doral, and I actually blew my back out there. Like, I actually jumping into the pool. Like, it's like embarrassing, but I hurt my back. It was almost like a haze injury getting off the couch.
Yeah.
I had a friend who's a member there and went to the pool and jumped in and hurt my back, like my L4-5 or whatever. I had like back problems my whole career because of that jump into the pool at Doral.
The bad pool at Doral. You should sue Trump.
Exactly. Get a few bucks out
Retrospective
of it.
suing.
1994 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. During the NHL, it was like the
Lockout. That would have been the lockout.
Yeah, it was
there.
down at Doral.
Yeah,
Yeah, crazy.
But, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's, Again, Tiger's there. It sounds like Monahan's there. Something could be coming. I don't know what's going to happen. Listen, as a golf fan, you just want the best players playing. That's all I care about.
That's true.
All right, Jerome McGinley coming up just after 6 o'clock. We will get to Rashog as well from TD Garden ahead of the game tonight. All right, panel work tonight. It's going to be a fun one. We'll catch
Can't
you
wait to
pregame,
break it
postgame.
down tomorrow, fellas. Can't wait.
That's
Breakdown tomorrow. Dear Hazy B tomorrow. It's going to be a great one.
Lock or not tomorrow?
Lock or not, looking
yeah.
to the Olympic Games. Coming off this.
I mean, there's going to be 6 guys that are auto locks possibly, but we're going to go through the roster. Lock or not going to the Olympics.
Okay, isolate a segment for that. We'll lock that in tomorrow. All right, Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Jerome McGinley in about a half an hour. He obviously had a big impact on basically every big game he played. I mean, you go back to 2002 when they won gold. He scored a big goal. Remember, he crashed the net. I think it was Yzerman that maybe fed him.
Yeah.
And a typical Ginla goal, like just barreling in, like off his stick and in. It was a great play. And then obviously he's on the ice feeding Crosby for the gold winner in 2010.
That one was kind of the coolest one because, the microphone's near the ice. You can actually hear Sid yell, Iggy, Iggy.
Yeah.
And, Iggy pops it to him, and then Sid, beats Ryan Miller 5-hole in that quick little play. It was just an unbelievable kind of instinctual play, but it doesn't happen if Iggy doesn't pop it to him. Like you kind of have to have eyes in the back of your head. But I think Iggy's talked about him he heard Sid yelling, so he knew kind of where he was and just popped it to him. So it'd be interesting to see. Iggy's been involved in a lot of that. We had Prongs on, what was that, last week or 2 weeks ago? And, the stories they tell of kind of behind the scenes and the feelings they were going through. I think Iggy's talked about Scott Niedermayer stepping up and saying, we got a real opportunity here going into overtime, like somebody can be a hero, like relax and play type of thing, which is, it's pretty cool. Like,
man, if there's overtime tonight, it is, it's going to be incredibly nerve-wracking. Like, it really will be because of just what's happening, in the last couple of weeks and the build-up and all the smack talk from both sides, and specifically the Americans.
Well, here's a crazy one, and I don't – what if it goes to overtime and Austin Matthews scores?
Oh, man.
Like, that's a real – like,
that
in this
happen.
city, right?
Oh,
well, it could. Obviously, it could.
Of course.
But, I mean, like there's so many Leaf fans in the city and follow this show and all that, but also you're guys on the other team right now. Like, but Saturday he's playing for you. You want him to score a hat trick on Saturday.
Yeah.
You want him to be shut out tonight. Isn't that crazy?
I think it's the worst thing that could ever happen for a Leaf fan because, I mean, that's probably a bit much. But the point being, you'd be happy for Matthews.
Right.
But it would be such a, he's never done that in a Game 7 for the Leafs to just, crush the souls of the opponent. And then the first time he's up against you as a Leaf fan, as a Canadian, he buries you. Like, it would just be insult to injury. That's what it would be. And, you're Austin, he's more than capable of doing it. And hopefully he does it for the Leafs someday. I mean, that's obviously the hope.
Right.
But the idea that he would be the guy to bury you in overtime would be tough.
I mean, it's a scenario, right?
It's 100% a scenario.
It is a scenario, and it would be, for the diehards, you're like, okay, great.
That'd be crushing.
But you know what it would be like? It's like, where was that against?
Yeah, exactly.
I
don't think anyone would be happy for him. Like, let's call it what it is. Nobody would like it. Nobody wants to see it happen. A, because of who he would be beating. But B, again, immediately Leaf fans who are easily triggered, have a lot of issues, right? Because of the history, would say, really? Like, now you show up, now you punch your ticket. Now it happens. And that's inevitable probably on both sides. If Marner does it tonight, it's a different reaction because he does it for Canada. It's incredible. But, it leads me to, I've got a couple of options here. Let me run through this.
Okay,
all right?
sure.
Who we think will have a bigger impact on the game tonight. Okay? I'll give you two players. You got to pick one. I'll pick one as well.
Sure.
Brady or Matthew Tkachuk? Brady or Matthew? Who has a bigger impact tonight?
Okay, so right away my instinct was Matthew, just because we've seen, right? Like, we've seen this guy impactful. But the Ottawa bias in me, we haven't seen. Brady has not played a playoff game.
Never played a playoff game.
And this is the biggest game of his career.
Yes.
Like, a flat out of his career. I think you could see a Brady game. Like, I feel like, and it might be, mucking in that 10-foot radius. They both are so good, but Brady's he's a mutant. He's so big. It could be a Brady night. And that might be more the Ottawa bias, but my instinct is Matthew, but it could be Brady.
Yeah, my instinct actually goes Brady because of everything you said. That like, Matthew will be hyped. He'll play. I expect he'll play well. I think he's banged up. I think they both are.
Right.
But he's been in 2 Cup finals. He played a Game 7 on home ice and won. This, regardless of what he says, and this will mean a ton because he's playing with his brother too, which is so really cool and significant. But this is it for Brady Tkachuk. Like, Brady, because of Ottawa's, failures in the regular season, let's call it what it is.
Lack of success.
He hasn't had this opportunity. And I think in a game like tonight, where I do think goals will be tough to come by. I don't know if he's going to score necessarily, but I think you'll notice his impact in terms of forechecking, in terms of possibly fighting, certainly causing issues for Binnington and defensemen. So my instinct would go to that. Yet, like you said, big picture, Matthew's a better player. I think Matthew has the ability to put more offensive production up. But I'm going to go Brady. I'm going to say Brady because I do think this guy is going to be ready to run through a wall tonight. Like, of all the players on the American team, I think Brady will be frothing at the mouth.
He might be the most charged.
Yes. I think that's very, very likely. All right, who will have a bigger impact on the game tonight? Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner?
Okay, my instinct is Matthews because of where he plays in the lineup. With Mitch on a third line, it might be favorable because maybe he gets away from a top pairing, all of that type of stuff. So it could easily be Mitch based on, we'll call it, the depth that he's playing at. But keep in mind, there's 8 number 1 lines in this. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I had a GM say to me the other day, he goes, when you could take any line from both teams, and those are number 1 lines in the National Hockey League. So you've got 8 playing against each other. So there's really, you could say, oh, Mitch Marner's on a third line. That's not a third line. That's a 1 line. It just happens to be in the 3 hole for Team Canada. And, that being said, the shots were 25-24. Like, it wasn't the shots were 60-58 because there was so much offense. I just think it's Matthews he's a goal scorer. Mitch is a passer.
Yep.
To me, goals carry more weight. I'm not saying Mitch couldn't do it. I'm just leaning more Matthews.
Yeah, I would lean Matthews. I would lean Matthews again because of where, like, this is what we talked about yesterday. Marner, just based on the reality of the depth of the Canadian team with the top end talent. The Americans are very balanced. They got a great team top to bottom. But in my opinion, their best player, like on any given night, you talk talent and production and ability, would be Matthews. Now, in terms of playoff performances, in terms of big game moments, I don't think he's worthy of that mantle because he hasn't proven that throughout his career. He's got to own that. And maybe he changes that tonight. It's a big opportunity for him. But if we're talking, and listen, McDavid hasn't won anything either, technically. So you can look at McDavid compared to Sid. It's not even a conversation. Sid's won way more than McDavid. But McDavid, best player in Canada. Matthews, in my opinion, best player in Canada, or on the Americans. And as the captain, as a guy playing up the middle of the ice, likely on the ice a lot against McDavid and against McKinnon, that's significant too. Like, if the Americans are going to win, Matthews has got to win some of those battles and win some of those shifts. Like, he's got to tilt the ice when McDavid's on the ice. And sure, Sullivan will try to get him out there in better situations and try to get him better zone starts and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, it's going to be Matthews, McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon, and he's got to step up. He's got to have the ability to do that. And I think if they win, that will prove that he did that.
Yep, I agree. I think he just might have more opportunity to do it as well where he's placed in the lineup.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Who will have a bigger impact on the game tonight, Sidney Crosby or Nathan McKinnon?
I'm saying Sid. I just like this guy, big moment. We just talked about Sid, big moments.
Yep.
And not that Nate's having an unbelievable tournament as well. I mean, talked about the sound of him skating up the ice. Like, he talked about it the other day. I don't know if you were on the show or not. He was saying, like, listening to him skate up the ice is like a freight train. Like, the noise that it makes, it actually, like, feels like it rumbles. Like, the guy is so powerful. He's such an absolute beast. But I look at the moment and big moments, and Sid is never disappointed.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just gold. You need whatever is needed on that particular night, Sid just delivers. So we've seen it, in the Olympics, but we saw it against Finland. We saw it against, Sweden, game 1. Like, you saw it. Like, to me, I feel like Sid is the big moment guy, and why wouldn't it? This is the cherry on top for him.
Yes, exactly. And hopefully next year as well at the Olympic Games. And then that's probably it. Sid's a realist. He's 37. I don't think he's going to be on the 2030 team. Maybe the 2028 World Cup. Is it possible? Yeah, I think it is because he's in such great shape and he's such a committed athlete. But at some point, it's going to dry up and he's just not going to be able to continue to do it. But he's still playing at such a high level. And, it's interesting the way I would describe McKinnon. It reminds me of seeing LeBron play. Like, seeing LeBron play live in his prime.
Power, man.
Oh, man. When he would get the ball and drive down the court, you're like, look at this guy. Like, that is a linebacker, and he's so – and you could hear him stomping. Yeah. Like, the court was – it was just incredible to watch.
Yeah, electric.
And McKinnon's like that. Yet Sid is kind of like Jordan in a way in terms of the clutch gene and in terms of what you can expect. But I'll lean McKinnon because of him still, his ability with that speed and the fact that he has been so good the last 2 years. Sid has been great in this tournament. Sid has been unbelievable in this tournament. Everything we just said, I think everyone would agree with. He has still got a lot of game left. But McKinnon won the Hart last year. He might win it again this year. He is so good. and he is rocking right now. And as big of a moment as it is for McDavid, for Sid, McKinnon should be included in that group. Yeah. Like he is a Mount Rushmore of this era for Canadian hockey.
I agree.
Like in the last 10 years, McKinnon's got to be in that conversation. So he's been robbed of these opportunities. So in a weird way, as much as Sid has done it and you expect it, I don't think he'd ever take this for granted. I know he won't. But I look at McKinnon and think he's got to be so desperate for this opportunity. Just chomping at the bit because he got robbed. He's been robbed for the last decade. He would have been a big part in 2020 and 2022 if they had it, 2024. Yeah. This is just like McDavid. McKinnon's no different. Big opportunity for him tonight.
I just, I've got such this build-up. And remember, I talked to you. Remember, I was at Game 7 in Florida. And I just, in my heart, I was like, there's no way 97 is just getting shut down. Mm-hmm. I just felt like he had dragged them back into a Game 7. It was one game. We always say, in one game, who would you take? And I felt like McDavid was going to be a man possessed, and he just couldn't get it going. Florida just blanketed him. And Bobrovsky made a big save in that third period. I just feel like we're building this all up. And again, it's like going to be the Anthony Cirelli show or Braden Point
2-1 shots 2-1. Are 18-15
exactly, and it's Chris Kreider that gets one, or if it's Braden Point or Tony Cirelli or somebody like that, or it's a Josh Morrissey point shot that finds its way through. Like that's kind of how it is going to be because. As we know, we build these games up, and both sides, they almost cancel each other out. Go top player versus top player. Okay, you're not scoring, I'm not scoring. So it's just like they just cancel until something breaks. Yep. Like that's how I feel.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that were the case. Like if it does feel like a Game 7 Cup final, that's generally how they play out. Yeah, tight checking. And it's difficult to find a break because there's anxiety, there's nervousness. Yeah. Guys don't want to make a mistake, so you play more of a simple game. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it played out at all. All right, Jerome McGinley, about 20 minutes coming up to tee up the game tonight. Ryan Rishaug in Boston. I'm seeing video of the Americans walking in. I think the Canadians are there. We're getting closer to puck drop tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Jerome McGinley will join us. I got my 5 stories to watch list we'll get to as well.
Yeah.
Yes. And our best bets on the game tonight. And, there's some stuff going on around the league with practices happening. We talked about this last hour. This is how big this game is and how big this event has become, that the Leafs are practicing daily and no one's paying attention to anything.
Nobody.
Nobody, including Max Pacioretty's already hurt. He's injured. Yeah. He's not likely to play this weekend.
But he was skating today. So it's not
weird.
Well, you might have just tweaked something or whatever, but you're right. Like, okay, you're fine to play next week type of thing. It's just a weird. But we have to remember he's older.
Yeah, he's had a lot of bad injuries too.
Right. Did we expect that he was going to play 82 this year? No. But if you think, okay, can you get 50 to 60 out of him, but have him play at the most critical time? That's what you're hoping. At the start of the season, this guy was found money. That's really what it was. He was found money.
Yeah. The 1-year deal at no money, but I just wonder, can you trust that he'll be available for you in the playoffs? Like, I don't know if you can. I mean, and Yarncroke is back, and I guess he's practicing. I think they're playing him up the middle of the ice at practice. I don't know what that's all about. I've never seen him play center that I'm aware of. But, that there's going to be some cap manipulation too, right, for the Leafs?
Yeah.
When if Yarncroke comes off, he's making 3.5. I think it is. So
they're going to have to do some deck shuffling for sure. Or they've got to, if they believe the team, they might have to move him. What does he have left on his deal off the top? I think, does he have 2 years left?
I think this year and next. I think it was a 4-year deal. I think he's in his 3rd year.
You might have to find a spot for him somewhere else if you don't believe he is going to be a long-term fix for your group, just at that price point.
Yep.
Tree's got some work ahead of him, or at least, as you mentioned, some cap manipulation where you gotta find a spot for people financially.
Well, exactly. I mean, you've got to fit under the cap. Ultimately, that's the thing. It's a finite number. And you got to figure out who are your best combinations. How do you get into the playoffs? Which they're going to make the playoffs, but it's not. it's not as if the stretch run is completely just mail it in and wait until you get there. They're fighting for positioning. You want the 1 seed. You got some tough road trips coming up.
Well, and that's the other thing too is you can't have this. You can't have a 5-game awful stretch.
No, you can't.
Just, you can't do that. So you got to come back and hit the ground running, or at least keep the train rolling. They didn't limp into the break, but it was they won 3 of 4. But before that, it was like they'd won 4 of 10 or whatever it was. They were 6 and 4 or 4 and 6, whatever it is. It wasn't like they were 8 and 2. So it's you got to continue to pick up. And as you mentioned, the schedule isn't super favorable. It's tough. They can get through it, as everybody does, but you gotta find a way get back to your levels right away.
Yeah, and listen, the luxury they have is Stolar's returned before the break. He'll be at 100%. So you're coming down the stretch with Wall and Stolar's both healthy, and we'll see what happens with Matthews and Marner. Marner's not banged up, but Matthews is. So we'll see where he's at. But if you have a full lineup, everyone's healthy, you're in a good position coming down the stretch. But you got to close the deal, and you got to figure out who's going to play. Yarncroke, Pacioretty, where's everyone going to go? They got a lot of bodies. Not everyone can play, and there is a finite cap. Yeah. And the trade deadline's coming up quickly. We're 2 weeks away. All right, final hour coming up. Jerome McGinley will join us. We'll get to our best bets as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.